Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to do invisible zippers. I hate invisible zippers, but some people use them for certain things, so I'm going to show you how to do it. I have a lot of information on my blog about why I dislike them and what I recommend instead of them. So I recommend supplementing this video with reading the blog entry. But regardless, here we go. So what you're going to need is an invisible zipper. This one is coffee stained or something from the store I got it at, but it'll do. So an invisible zipper is different from a normal zipper because a normal zipper, the tab is on the side with the teeth. An invisible zipper, it's the opposite. So this is the right side of the zipper. This is what's facing out of the garment. You're going to need your fabric cut to whatever you're doing. Depending on when you're inserting the zipper, this might be after most of the outfit's done, or it might be towards the beginning. Again, see the blog because I've got more information on when you'd want to put your zipper in what circumstances. You're going to need a needle and thread. I'm using really contrasting colors just so you can see it on camera. And you need 2 different zipper feet. This is just a regular zipper foot. And this is an invisible zipper foot. And an invisible zipper foot has 2 channels on the bottom, and you use it to hold the little channel of teeth open so you can stitch close to it. And you're going to use both of them at different parts at doing this invisible zipper insertion. So to start out, you're going to this is going to be our garment, like our fake garment. So this we're saying is the center back seam. So you're going to line everything up flat. Now, as you're looking at it, you're going to open your zipper and place it so that the teeth curl up so that this is the right side up. And you're going to put this side on, this would be like the left side of your garment if you're looking at it. Like we're going to say this is the shoulders, this is the waist. So it's opening at the top. And we're going to pin it like this. Now the big thing you need to know is this goes opposite to everything I ever say about sewing with spandex, and you're going to want to make sure there is no stretch on anything. If you get any stretch, if you stretch the fabric at all when you do this, if you stretch the zipper, you're going to have waves in your zipper. And worse, if you don't have the same amount of stretch on both sides, you'll get random waves in the bottom, so it won't match. Keep it as flat as possible. So where you put the zipper here is going to depend on how you're using the zipper, if there's a collar on it, if you're going to be doing a snap, whatever. So I'm just going to put it so that we're lining the top edge of the zipper piece with the top edge of the fabric. Again, check the blog for information on how you would vary that. Okay, so we're going to start by pinning it down. And you're going to want to use really sharp zippers so it doesn't pull on anything. And just very carefully pin it without stretching any of the layers. Now when you're used to doing this, you can kind of skip the pinning stage, but it really does help if you're new to putting in invisible zippers. Now, because this doesn't have the bottom part of the garment on it, we'd usually have like a waist seam here or whatever. We're going to stop the seam like a couple inches before the bottom because we're going to want to have the actual seam to meet the zipper. So we'll start sewing right around there. Now once you've got that pinned and you're happy with how flat it is, you're going to take your needle and thread, no knot in it, and you're just going to very carefully hand baste. And just remove the pins as you go. Again, I don't tie a knot in the end. I suppose you can, but if you just hold it straight, it'll make it easier to pull it out later. I never hand baste anything, so the fact that I'm telling you to hand baste this means it's not really optional. It really does make a huge difference in terms of not letting it wrinkle as you're, like no stretching and wrinkling as you're sewing the various seams. Of course, this is going to be the messiest thing because I never hand sew anything, and I definitely don't hand sew when I'm being filmed and nervous. So of course the thread's going to get all messy. And just make sure you're keeping everything perfectly flat the whole time. You don't want anything to change from when you pinned it. Get some of my hair in there. This is why I like sewing spandex, is because you generally don't have to hand baste things. You generally don't have to do much hand sewing at all, so that works well for me. And it doesn't have to be super even or straight or whatever, because you're going to end up pulling it out later. Which is why you want nice big stitches and not putting a knot in the end. So here I'll usually just do like an extra, like kind of small stitch. And trim that. So now we're going to my sewing machine. Okay, so I'm using the regular zipper foot now, and I've got it to the right side of the needle because I'm going to be sewing to the left. So I'm not trying to sew into the groove at this point. I'm just trying to get it relatively close to this. The closer you can sew to the teeth at this point, the less chance there's going to be for gathering and ruffling as you're sewing the next step. So I'm doing a straight stitch, and we're just going to So again, I'm going to stop about 2 inches from the bottom of this. I'm going to trim the ends there at this end. And at this point, I'm going to take the basting out. You don't have to, but like aesthetically, I like to. And of course, I sewed over it this time. Usually I can just pull it out easily. Anyway. So there we go. We've got the straight seam with no rumpling. So at this point, we're going to be doing some switching back and forth between the presser feet. So I'm taking out that zipper foot and I'm putting in the invisible zipper foot. Okay. So there's 2 sets of channels here. You're going to be working with the one on the left for this side. And what you're going to do is you're going to push this open, but you're going to make sure that you're not gathering fabric underneath where the push is. You want to keep this part as flat as possible. So start there. And slowly and carefully, because the big thing here is you want to make sure you're not jumping over any of this fabric. And also you want to make sure you're not stitching into the teeth, whether this way or while they're under. So I keep my fingers on top and press it down like this until it goes through. Ugh, it's being a jerk. Again, I'm going to trim my threads. And what you'll see here is you've got that seam very close to the teeth. Now what you want to do is give a good look over, make sure you don't have any stitches that skipped over towards the teeth. And then you're going to want to give it a test by just closing it. And make sure you don't get fabric caught in it, like I just did. As you'll see, I did not, if I had caught the teeth at any point in that, it would have stopped and it wouldn't have gone. So that is a perfect seam there. So now we're going to go back to my other side of my sewing table. You want to make sure that you're turning it such that it's actually going to match up when it folds, like this. So in that case, that's flipping this part out here. Best to double check that right up front, because that's something that's going to be a pain if you don't get it right. So as with this first side, we lined the zipper itself up with the edge. That will vary from project to project, but this is just going to show you how to do the zipper itself. So now we're going to use those sharp pins again, and very flat with no stretching, pin the zipper down to the fabric. I'm probably going to bleed on this one. Okay, so now that we've got that done, what you want to do is test to make sure that you've got this twisted the right way and that everything's lined up as you want it to. So if you had any kind of, I actually am bleeding on this, crap, okay. So if there was a pattern, if you had any kind of color blocking here, you just want to make sure when pinched together that everything lines up properly. So as is, this is looking good. So we're going to finish this. Wait, so I got to unzip this. So as with the other side, we're going to do the basting. Just really quick stitch through it. I have really obnoxious cats, so you probably hear them screaming because we're not upstairs worshiping them at the moment. I think that's going to be a common theme in these videos. So just again, as you're sewing, make sure nothing's stretching, nothing's binding or buckling, and that everything's staying as flat as possible. This is so much more awkward with a camera on me. Like, being sure not to jostle my husband while I'm doing this. So in general, ow, damn it, I did it again. When you're working with pins, try not to bleed on your costume. Unless it's your costume, like if you're making it for yourself and it's not for someone else, by all means bleed on it. As long as you can wash it. It's a blood sacrifice, will make you skate better if it's skating dress. Pretty sure that's a thing. I like to convince myself it's a thing, anyway. Anyway. So there we've got our second row of basting stitch done. And again, I just like to do just another test run to make sure you don't get the thread caught in here, which I'm sure I'm going to. I'm pulling it out. Look at that. Anyway, so again, this would be another chance for if you had color blocking or applique that goes across, just to make sure everything lines up well. So now we're going to head back to the sewing machine. Okay, so this time we've got it set so we're sewing over to the right of the zipper foot. It can be really tempting to try and sew from the bottom. That is almost going to guarantee that you're going to get waves. So you're going to want to start from the top and sew the same direction on both sides of the zipper. So then we're just going to run that stitch, making sure not to stretch anything. And we're stopping a couple inches from the bottom. Now, generally speaking, I would say use thread that matches your zipper and your fabric. I'm using a light blue just so you can kind of see it a little bit better. And again, I just like to take the basting stitch out before proceeding. Once I get 2 rounds of sewing on there, that it's a lot harder to pull it out, and I don't like leaving it in. Okay, so once again, you're going to switch out to your invisible zipper foot. And again, you're going to sew from the top of the zipper down. And this time you're going to use the right channel. If I can get it in there. So make sure you've got all your fabric pulled straight out from underneath the zipper. Start sewing. And just once again, pull this flat open and keep it in that channel. Stopping 2 inches from the bottom. And again, you can see it's pretty close to the channel there, the fold of the zipper. So this is what you want your back to look like. Just cut my hands on it. So you are going to close it. And just make sure you don't get fabric caught in it. So that means that went really well. So that means I didn't catch the teeth in at any point. There we go. We've got a nice flat and even zipper. So now it's going to be time to close this off. So now what we're going to be doing is finishing the center back seam. So this is going to go from the waist or the bottom of the crotch seam, depending on what you're doing, up to the zipper. Now you can put your zipper, you've got to put your zipper foot back on, your regular zipper foot. You can have it on either the left or right, depending on what side you want to sew from. I like sewing it with the zipper off to the right, so I have the foot set so that you're sewing on the right side of it. So pull the zipper out of the way, line up the center back pieces, and you're just going to stitch. You're going to try to stitch. And what you're doing is you're folding the zipper over itself, and you're exposing that that second seam that's closest to the center of the zipper. You're not going to want to stitch on that seam, but you're going to want to stitch as close to the seam as you can and cross it by, a centimeter to half an inch. You can do however long you want, really. I don't really do more than a centimeter. Oh, I just cut the end of it. So what you're doing there, and that's a little further away from it than you need it to be, but it'll work. That's what you're looking at. And what that does is that's sealing the end of the zipper here, so you're not going to be able to unzip the zipper past this point. But it's just a little cave for the zipper. So now the last thing you need to do is to finish off the zipper itself. So I like to leave, you know, a finger width or so under the actual seams and just cut it. And at this point you can cut it, there's no problem, because you're not going to be able to unzip the zipper that far. There are a couple ways you can finish this. I'll show you both. The easiest way, which is going to need my regular sewing foot, is just to do a line or two of stitching. So pull it completely away from the garment itself. Run a straight stitch back and forth, and then go to the edge of it. Get a wide zigzag. And just sew over that a few times. And that's just so it doesn't annoy you and doesn't really separate on its own. So that's going to be perfectly safe. Totally finished, whatever. Now, as an autistic, I will tell you this is more annoying on your skin than the other way you can do it. So I'm going to show you that now. So here's how I prefer to finish this off, just because I have plenty of sensory issues and I know I'm not alone in that, is I just take a little piece of matching spandex to the outside. I spray it down with, what's it called? This spray adhesive. But you don't have to. You could just hold it in place, but just for like demonstration purposes, like this makes it a lot easier. It basically turns it into a post-it note. So you can kind of place it as you want. And what you're going to do is you're just going to wrap that end. In my case, I'll press it tight so I can just deal with it there. And then you're just going to zigzag it on. Unless your thread doesn't want to hold. Anyway, so you just zigzag that. You can trim the edge of the fabric if you want. Add a little bit of overhanging. But that completely binds the edge of it, and that's so much nicer against your skin, especially when you're skating or moving or doing anything. And so here you can see this has a bit of stretch on its own. That's your invisible zipper. And as you can see, it is invisible. Okay, so as you see, we've got that first seam done. Now we've got to sew it to the other side. So we're basically just going to do everything we just did on the first side in reverse. Well, I guess to the other side, not a mirror image. With that right side up, you're going to twist it out this way. You want to be sure that when this is folded, this will actually connect without a loop in it, because it's very easy. Like if you went this way, it wouldn't necessarily match up. Just be careful to twist it the right way, basically. Get my sharp needles. One big thing about doing invisible zippers is you want to take the time and just double and triple check everything as you're going. So that's what we looked at. See this, it's very flat. Now what we're going to do, did I just do what I told you guys not to? I totally did. I put it in the wrong way. Okay, anyway, I already do that.